Hi witches, so I have a very special video for you guys today. I was able to sit down with Lauren, who is a psychic, and she was able to talk to me a little bit more about her work, what she does, what a psychic does, just because I have a little bit less experience in that, definitely. It's not the main focal point of my practice. And also, I did a video over with her over on her channel, so you guys should totally go and check it out. Please go watch. We talked about candle magic, so she is talking a little bit about that. I gave a witchy perspective on things, and we just had a really good conversation. So she taught me a little bit more about the world of like psychic intuitive work, and you guys by proxy, of course. And we just had a really grand old time. So I hope that you guys enjoy this video. Please definitely go. I listed all of her socials down below, so if you guys could do me a super huge favor and go give her a follow either on Instagram or her YouTube channel. You should book a reading. Go visit all of her things. Definitely, she is a joy to talk to and a fellow Virgo, so you know, like the best. No, but we had a fantastic conversation, and I am so glad I get to share this with you guys. So definitely check it out, and I will see you guys in the next one.
As you can see, I have a wonderful guest with me today. So I will let Lauren introduce herself. Tell you about what she does, who she is, and where you can find her on the internet.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. Basically, my name is Lauren. I go by Psychic Lauryn. I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm an animal communicator, but most importantly, I'm a psychic coach. So I teach a lot about psychic development on my YouTube channel. So you can find me on YouTube and mostly Instagram and Facebook, I would say. And I have a website, but YouTube is kind of like my primary source where people come to me to find videos on how to strengthen their psychic ability.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I will have all of her links down below. Seriously, please, please go follow, go subscribe, go do what have you. She is so sweet and so awesome, and I'm so blessed and like honored to have you on my channel. So today, as we were talking about a little bit before, I'm going to be asking Lauren a couple questions about like what it is to be like a psychic, what it means to do her work and all of that. So that way she can give you a perspective, because I certainly am not. I'm not really, it's not the biggest part of my practice. So I guess my first question to you is, when did you first realize that you were psychic intuitive?
Yes, I love telling this story because I get this question all the time, and usually somebody expects, oh, okay, she's psychic, she probably had this big crazy moment, or she like saw a spirit or a ghost or something, and I'm very different in that I just didn't have very many psychic experiences growing up. Didn't really think about it at all. And then I think my dog died, my family dog of like ages. He passed away, and I really wanted to talk to him. So I went and saw a pet psychic, and I was so scared, and I was terrified that I was going to go to hell. And like, just, I was so scared. And so I went to her, and she kind of just like blew my mind and got all these things right. And then she kind of told me, you know, you're psychic too. You're intuitive. Like, I can tell. And I was like, wait, anybody can be psychic, like anyone can learn how to do this. And she kind of coached me through how, you know, everyone is psychic, including you, including everyone watching this. How it's basically like a skill, and it's an ability that you strengthen. And so basically I went to a bunch of courses. I got really lucky here in Colorado. I found a woman that was teaching like a big it was basically like school. We had to go in several weekends in a row. We had to practice reading people. We had homework. I had to do this whole entire course. I got certified. And so I learned how to be psychic. So I don't have any like cool, amazing stories, but I think it's indicative that, you know, a lot of people are psychic and they want to become psychic, but then they're like, oh, well, I didn't have this big scary aha moment, so maybe I'm not. I like to say that I'm perfect proof that anyone can do this.
I love that. So I was not aware of like everything, which is why I'm asking, you know, all these questions. And
Yeah.
stuff. But, like, I definitely feel that. I love the way you're explaining, like, everyone can be psychic. And like, I know I'm coming here, like, I have no idea. But I agree. Like, I think that like everyone can tap into their intuition and learn how to do this. And I am so thankful that you're here to talk about that kind of stuff, because I think myself included, not a lot of people know about like how to do all of that. So I think it's really neat. So yeah. So you mentioned that you went to these courses and learned all of that. So how could you talk about like your journey into becoming a professional psychic and like how that went for you?
Absolutely. So, basically I went to those courses for like, I think it took me like 2 years to go through them. I went to other courses with like other teachers too, to kind of get, I'm a Virgo and I'm like, I need all the information. And, are you too? I didn't know that. And I was like, I just need all of it. So like I did medical intuition, I did Reiki. Basically I just studied for a couple years and I just did it for myself and family and friends. And again, I had to read people in person. So that was like a great thing, is I'm not just like, I didn't read out of a book and like decide one day that I was, a professional. I've been doing it for like a lot of years. But I'm trying to sum it up quickly because I've been doing it for so long. But basically I just kind of had to promote myself, and I did that through social media to kind of find clients. And after so many years, I'm getting enough of a client base that people remember me, refer me. But that's basically it. I've just been doing it for 7-8 years now. So I've become a professional out of practice, I guess I would say.
That's amazing. That's really, really cool that you took like all of those different avenues, that you learned so much, because I'm also very much that kind of person. I've actually been like looking into like learning Reiki and like what kinds of classes that I want to take to further my own education, because while I on YouTube and stuff, I think it's of the utmost importance for educators to continue their own education in order to make themselves better and like improve. So I've been like looking at, I have like a bucket list of stuff that I want to do. It's really inspiring to see like other people who are doing that. I think that is amazing. So in your practice, do you use any like tools like tarot or oracle cards? Is it more just kind of like a channeling kind? Like, could you explain like how? Or
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think every psychic is different, which is hard because you just never know what to expect. Some psychics channel. I like sort of do that, not like 100% to a point where like I'm just like personally gone. Usually I'm just using my psychic abilities. I'm talking to guides. I'm talking to, whoever the client wants to talk to. Might be their pet, spirit guide, somebody who's lost in person, lost. Oh my gosh, my words. Who is lost, like they lost somebody who's died. And then I use the 6 clairs is what I call them. And it's kind of how you receive psychic information. So you receive it through one of 6 clairs. And basically I use those and kind of communicate through my psychic ability to get answers. A lot of psychics do use tarot cards, or they might use other tools. I was specifically taught not to use those tools to kind of like avoid them becoming a crutch, if that makes sense. But I still use tarot cards because they're fun, and I went to a bunch of classes and I collect way too many, so I need an excuse to use them.
No, I hear you. I think tools are really great. And coming from like a witchcraft background, like I also like tarot and pendulum, like and I'm also like kind of a hoarder, so I'm just like, yes, give me more. It's excellent. But
yes.
I think that like tools, and especially in witchcraft and in your working as well, I think tools are excellent like aids, but I think that sometimes if we do like kind of rely on them without knowing like why we're doing something, or the inherent like metaphysical reason behind why we're doing something, or for you like the intuitive working, I think that sometimes things can get lost and we can get a little bit too focused on the tools and not on the actual work. So I think that's really, it's good that you're like, oh yeah, like here's what I do have some, but I like what you're saying. I think that's really neat.
Yeah. That makes me wonder though, sorry, I'm interrupting you. What tools do you use most? I'm just curious.
What of like divination and stuff, or like in practice? So right now I work mostly with like tarot cards for my own workings. I have this oracle that I'm like starting to work with a little bit, but that's kind of like my main thing. I've been starting to do like this year like a daily tarot pull for myself, which has like really been helpful for me to like starting to get back into touch with my intuition. So I'm being called to like start trusting myself more and like opening myself up to that, definitely. So yeah.
Awesome. I was just curious because I'm new to kind of your world as well, and I'm trying to introduce myself to all of that. So that's cool.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I will talk to you for hours about that. So what would you say your biggest piece of advice is for people who want to start developing their psychic abilities or working with their psychic gifts? Like, what advice do you have?
Yes. That's a great question. I think my biggest thing, because I know not everybody is like necessarily attracted to me as like a coach. So my biggest thing is to find somebody that knows what they're doing. And that's hard to kind of like vet, but finding somebody who's practiced, who's actually done readings. I would encourage people to actually do classes in person versus just kind of like picking up a book and trying to learn that way. And then I think my next biggest piece is to kind of just go with what you're excited about, because there's so many different tools, systems, like you could become an astrologist, you could become, a tarot card reader. There's people who are interested in animal communication. It can be so overwhelming at once. So just find the one thing that you're really excited about and go with it. The psychic ability can kind of fit into anything, which is what I love about it. And you can start with that base knowledge kind of through my YouTube channel. But if you're not enjoying it, like, don't do it. That's kind of my big thing. Some people feel forced, like they have to jump into like XYZ, and it's like, you don't have to do it if you don't want to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad to hear you say what you just said, because that is in line with like how I feel about stuff, where it's like, if you're not vibing with me, like if you do not like the way I teach, like that is fine. It is all good. Like whatever. It's cool. I understand.
Yeah.
Personality is an acquired taste. But I also, I think that with like metaphysical stuff, or like witchcraft or psychic and intuitive workings and stuff like that, I think it is also very important to take classes in person as well, or like in a lecture type setting, where versus just like learning things on like TikTok and Pinterest and stuff, because that stresses me out to no end. I'm like, okay, but like anyone can sit here and write this, like just make sure that.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is like, if like an instructor is like pushing you to do something that you are not comfortable with, or like just does not align with your moral values or your personal stuff, and this is something that I talk about a lot, I'm just like, run, like do not like do not like, just if they are like asking you for a stupid amount of money, like ridiculous amounts, or like guilty and weird, just like go. Because I feel like sometimes not to make this like a weird dark video, but like sometimes that can create like some of the spaces that I think we are in. So it's always just good to be like aware of all of that. And I like to, I think you're a safe person to talk to, and I think your channel, from what I have seen, is really educational and geared towards educating people and teaching beginners. So I just cannot recommend your stuff enough. And you always come across super sweet and super helpful and like very honest. So I do appreciate that about all of your work and stuff that you've done.
Thank you. I mean, I try really hard not to be unethical, because there's so many people in this industry that take advantage of each other, and like you said, maybe don't have the best training and kind of just are like, I'm going to start teaching this. And I mean, all the power to you, but just make sure you're kind of vetting those people, because unfortunately there's some bad seeds out there, but there's way more good seeds. There's a lot of good people in this community.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but yes, definitely. Kind of piggybacking off of that, I guess, is what is one misconception about psychics that you would like to dispel, or something that a lot of people like assume that you're like, no, like that ain't it.
Yeah, there's literally so many that I'm gonna do a video on this one day, but the biggest one I will say is that a lot of people assume that we are right 100% of the time. And so I like to say psychics can be wrong. And when I say that to people, sometimes they're like, aren't you just like just selling yourself short? Like, aren't you wanting me to like buy your services? But psychics can be wrong. Like, we can not be connecting right. We can have a bad day. Like, we are human. And I think a lot of people put a lot of weight on psychics, that we have to be 100% right 100% of the time. And that's why you see when people do have those off days when psychics aren't right, everything else about their reading maybe gets thrown out the window. And then there's just kind of this stereotype that psychics are here to take your money or to do all these bad things. But it might just be that somebody was off a little bit, had a bad day. Maybe they were not connecting to their clairs correctly. Maybe they heard the information wrong, but interpreted it wrong. Like there's more that goes into it. And if you start to take away the fact that psychics have to be right 100% of the time, it takes the pressure off of them to be right 100% of the time. But then it also gives you the power of I have my own independence. I have my own free will. I can make my own decision around this. And I'm just going to use the psychic's opinion as, just as much as like a friend's opinion. Like I'm not going to add any more weight to it than I would my own judgment, if that makes sense.
No, I love that. I think that is really, really well put. And that's fantastic. I have no words. I'm speechless.
I have no words.
Okay, so you've talked a little bit about the clair senses, and I have a short video about that where I briefly covered like clairaudience, claircognizance, all of that. And it was really, really fascinating. Like I knew about them prior, but like as I was doing research for that video and stuff, I was like, oh, this is actually like really fascinating and a lot more prevalent than I expected it to be, like in the world at large. But I guess my next question is like, which of the clair senses do you personally utilize the most, would you say?
Yeah, I'm mostly clairaudient, which means I hear psychic information. Mm-hmm. I used to be very clairvoyant as well, but I've just kind of leaned into favoring it. And so clairs can change over time. Like you might start with one, rely on a different one over time. And the great thing is you can strengthen different ones. Like if you really want to be able to see, you can start using clairvoyant exercises to strengthen that. So you don't have to be stuck to the one that is your natural, like strongest, if that makes sense.
That's really, I didn't know that they could change and stuff like that. I always thought it was something where, that's really, really fascinating. That's neat.
I'll say that when like I first started, I could feel spirits and I did not like that. Like I was like, no, don't touch me. Don't bother me. And so I shut that clair off and I kind of switched over to the other one. So just an example of like me changing it up so that it was more comfortable for me.
And I think that's something that not a lot of people necessarily know that you can do. Like, you know what I mean? In a weird way, like where it's like, okay, if this is making me physically uncomfortable, I can kind of shut myself off, like experiencing the things that I am experiencing. If a spirit or God, whatever, is happening. So it's good to know. That's comforting for people to know as well, in case people are feeling overwhelmed, kind of like what you were saying. What sort of services, like as a psychic intuitive, I know you talked about like pet communication and stuff. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? Is so interesting. I want to talk to my cat. Where is he? No.
Yeah. That was, well, because I first went to that pet psychic, that's kind of how I got into this, is I wanted to talk to my pets. So that's always been one that honestly is just, it's super strong for me. Like it just like clicks like this. I've always talked to my animals. So I can do animal communication readings. I do psychic readings, mediumship readings. So that's talking to loved ones in spirit, or just answering any sort of general question about past, present, future, or just like where you're at in life, how you can get somewhere. And then I sprinkle in some of the other things that I've learned over the years, which is medical intuition. I do some shamanic practices here and there. Learning about astrology. Again, it's that Virgo in me. I can't stop going to classes.
I think that's awesome. So definitely check out her website for all of the offerings that she has, and book appointments, please. No. But speaking of that, what should people do to prepare for a reading with you? Do they need to bring anything? Do they need to prepare themselves mentally, emotionally? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think usually I try to tell people to just come with an intention, or even just questions in mind, because, I'll always take the lead and just talk and, give you what your spirits want to tell you. But if you have kind of I always feel like at the end of a reading, people start to come up with questions and they're like, oh, wait, what about this? Oh, can you talk to this person? Oh, can you do this? So I like to just say, just think about the things you want to know ahead of time. But other than that, it's pretty easy, I would say. And no matter what psychic you're going to, you can always reach out to them ahead of time and ask about, hey, what's the process look like? What do I need to know? And thankfully, I kind of have my website set up so it sends you automated messages and it says like, hey, this is what to expect. And if a psychic doesn't do that for you and you don't feel comfortable, you can always just ask and reach out. So.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I was always like, so not always, but right before I go, I've gotten my tarot cards read a couple times, and I'm always like stupidly nervous beforehand. I'm like, they're gonna tell me that I'm gonna die in like 3 days, and that, oh my god, but I as a tarot reader know that this is not true. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just, it's good to hear that, like, you know, you are open to being reached out to, like if you have any, you know, questions, and I feel like most people are generally. So
yeah. Well, and I would say that fear probably comes from like, because I think a lot of people have that fear. I've had so many people be like, are you going to tell me when I'm going to die?
Right.
And I'm always like, one, no, I would never, ever say that. Any psychic should never say that to you. They should never go there, even if they're feeling it. And so that's why I say find those ethical psychics, find the ones that you vibe with that will happily tell you about their process and kind of be forthcoming, because I don't know. I feel like those things that we're afraid of when we think about psychics are usually those bad seeds. So try to avoid the bad apples to begin with, if you can.
No, I agree. Like, and that goes for anything like witchcraft related, any sort of stuff as well. So I agree with you. And then our final question for today is, what is the best part of your job? Like, what do you love about your job?
I love
I know
that
it's a hard question because I'm sure there's a lot.
No, I feel like nobody asked that, but I think because a lot of people too that follow me are, you know, intuitives of some sort, or they want to kind of strengthen their practice and they do this for a living. And I would say, I think one of the things I love most is just being able to work from home, set my own schedule, be able to take care of my son, and just like have a life. And I just have a very short window of like, this is when I do my readings. I record my videos for my channel and kind of put out a little bit of content every now and then, but then the rest of my days are just up for me, I guess. And so for my mental health, I think that's important. And I think that's why a lot of people are drawn to doing like what we do.
Yeah, I definitely, so just a little bit about my like past work history, which does tie into this conversation, I promise.
You can talk about yourself.
I worked in the fashion industry for 3 years, and like at like a very high end, like luxury place, right?
Oh.
Which, but I like it completely like sucked my soul out. Like it was not good for me as a person. And I've noticed, I quit in like October and started doing this like relatively full time. And it has made such a world of difference for my mental health, I think. Just like being able to like, connect not only with just like the amazing, wonderful community that we do have, but just being able to like set my own schedule and like really focus my life now around my practice has been just like fantastic. So it's good to hear that someone else is like also like experiencing that. That makes me happy. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you so much for talking with me today. I so
of course
appreciate it. And again, if you want to follow Lauryn, she's all of her socials and everything are going to be linked below this video. So like, please, if you would like, go check it out. And check her out on Instagram and stuff as well. So yeah, did you have anything, final words, final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you so much for having me. I love doing this. You're so sweet and fun. I feel like we're on the same vibe. I love it. And I will say too that Becca's coming over to my channel to do a video. So if you want to check her out, she's going to be helping me kind of coach people about how to use candle magic. So that's kind of new to my followers. But if you want to see more stuff from her, hop on over to my channel because there's going to be more Becca.
Hell yeah. I mean, and everyone needs more of me right now. I'm just
Exactly.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Lauryn, for being here, and I will see all of you guys tomorrow. Bye.